Welcome to the BBC Part 2. Welcome to the BBC News, actually, Will. Part 2. I have a topic for us today, and I would like to pose this to you. I'd like to know, because people think that big boys don't cry, do you think it's actually all right for guys to cry?
Yeah.
Me too.
I mean, if you really break it down, it's just a chemical release.
Fuck, you're talking my language now.
It's just a chemical release.
Neuroscience is so true.
Yeah, it's all, you know what, it's all the associations attached with liquid coming out of your eyes. You know, it's everything that everyone says about that you're scared of. But in reality, and this is something you told me, which is, well, that's the chemical release of the emotion that you're feeling. So if you don't release it, you will hold it. And if you hold it, you bring that with you in your life. And then that has the opportunity now to then affect and put that same energy out into those new environments.
William, you are well and truly a Jedi.
Well, I learned that from you. So.
The reason why I say this, and I thought it was a really interesting topic because I've been doing some videos that are very get in your power, let go of those limiting beliefs with warriors and, you know, stand up. Kia kaha stands tall. But then I was also thinking, there is a time for going inwards. There is a time actually for contemplation and meditation. And there is a time for actually feeling the feels, because there is emotions that men, women, all of us feel that when they rise to the surface, we have to move those emotions for us to transcend the density of them. And often, as you said and rightly put, neuroscientifically, excreting tears is a great way to let go of that signature of that emotion. But I think men, we get stuck in our hyper masculine, and we think that it's not okay for us to connect with our hearts. And men have hearts, we're human. And I think it's actually okay for us to do that. So I thought that was a really good one for us to chat about is, and I was just talking about it earlier in regards to balancing that masculine, feminine energy within our body, which all genders have masculine and feminine energy.
It's interesting where it comes from, because it opens up like a can of worms, which is like, why are you scared that crying will not make you look manly? And then the question becomes is, do you feel like you're not a man?
True.
That question arises. It's like, okay, well, if you put all the stuff of everyone else's opinion aside, what do you think the answer to that question is? Because if you truly felt you embodied what a man is, which you first of all need to have like you need to know your definition of a man, because it's like you might not even know that you were taking on the world's definition of a man, or maybe someone else's opinion of what a man is. You've adopted that, and then you have the fear that you're going to not rise up to the standard of that definition and disappoint them, or disappoint a woman, or whatever it is.
True.
It goes quite deep, actually. So it's like, first of all, actually, what's your definition of a man? And then do you think you actually fit that bill? Because a man who's truly secure within himself doesn't need the validation of other people. Therefore, him crying, there's no problem about it. He totally owns himself. He's like, yeah, so what?
I love that. That brings me back to a story of Lao Tzu. The Art of War is a great book, ancient text, a Chinese philosopher and warrior. And I love one of his sayings. He says that of a man is the nobility and being as regal and noble as a king, and yet as gentle as a grandmother. And for me, that really personifies what being a man is, as a gentleman. What is that? The ability to rip your fucking jugular out, but choosing not to, and forgiving and loving instead. I think that for me defines aspects of self. When I think about who am I as a man, it very much is that having the discernment to allow and give people the benefit of the doubt, and give people the opportunity to grow and learn and evolve without getting into the defensive nature of fear, of having to make someone wrong so I can feel right, or having to hurt somebody to make them submit to a way of thinking or being that makes me feel better about myself.
And it's all because you don't believe that about yourself. That's all it is. It's just a mirror. It's a reflection. Because people who, let's say, for example, are well versed in fighting, who really know how to fight, don't seek it. Because they don't have to prove it. They know. It's the ones who just get into fighting who are the ones starting things, because they're still trying to prove to themselves that they can go and beat someone up. So they start looking for it. They haven't been in the game long enough to really understand that they can. And it's the ones who have done that that have nothing to prove. They don't look for it. And the reason they don't look for it is because they understand the damage that that can do. Because at the end of the day, even if you could, would you want to? Would you want that negative experience in your life, knowing that you've hurt someone, or maybe that you are also feeling hurt because you got pain inflicted on you? Well, the obvious answer is no. On this earth, why wouldn't you want to experience anything else but love? Why would you actually not want love? If you truly ask yourself that, I don't think you would want anything else but that. Like, that's all there really is. So the only reason you wouldn't is because you're trying to prove something, because you don't feel it within yourself. So you seek it.
So very true. Yeah. What is your definition of being a healed, solid man?
Well, I like what you said. It's like, you know you can, but you don't. You don't. You're calm. You're controlled. You're very aware of the situation. You know when it's time to really step up. But then you, at the same time, don't have anything to prove. So you're not going to create unnecessary situations that will inflict a negative energy outwards or whatever it is, you know? So I think it's the ability, which does come with, sometimes you do have to kind of prove it to yourself, right? For example, if say, oh, well, I don't know if I could fuck someone up. Well, maybe go do some fight classes in a way that's, you know, it's a controlled environment. And it does develop that. But I think, yeah, knowing you can, but then you choose restraint accordingly.
Yeah, so true. And the dog's barking in the background, it reminds me of a barking dog, isn't it? That when we don't have control of our emotions, when somebody says something, we just react. We don't have the ability to regulate our emotions. We feel threatened, so we jump into our fight or flight. We want to either fight them or we want to just run away and move, disappear, often fighting, particularly in those sort of close proximities. And we can do that with just a mild conversation about something. Politics is a great one to trigger some fucker. You know, you talk about some for politics or religion or something like that, that really just sticks your finger in places where the finger shouldn't go in another person. And it really sparks something within them. But you can always see the difference between a self-regulated person when they can observe their emotions, but still be really open to another person's point of view or position or stance on something, because you don't need to make them think or be or do anything different other than they are for you to feel centered, safe, and pretty okay.
Well, that's the thing, because most people, and it's a typical example is like when you're in a combo, but the person, you can clearly tell they're not listening and they're waiting for their turn, because it's about them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, this is about me, or like some insecurity that I'm feeling, and then I want to prove it so I can fix that feeling, or whatever it is. But I think the ability to be totally okay within yourself, nothing to prove, you don't need anything because you've filled that within yourself. And then awareness in the current moment, not to be coming from a reactive place, but a proactive place, which is what you could call your higher self. The ability to have that control and actually look at what is the best outcome we are looking for at this point in time with this conversation or this event, and operate from a place of, you don't need anything, what's the best for the collective.
And that's it, isn't it? Is that having that true autonomy over oneself, that whole agency of self, is that not needing another person to be any different for you to feel good. And that's where we come up against with things in the world, is we need people to be very different or think the same way or act in a certain way for us to feel good, for us to feel a certain way. We're actually giving the responsibility to another person for the way we feel. That's not having agency over oneself.
That's true.
Agency is us being able to regulate our own emotions and feeling great no matter what's going on externally, and not giving that responsibility to someone else.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's an ongoing thing. I feel like that's something you have. It's a consistent practice and awareness of things that do come up, because it's only natural as well. Like I wouldn't say that, oh, if you're experiencing it, like you're flawed. That's pretty regular to humans. It's just about bringing that awareness and realizing, hey, like it's fine. It's not you. It's a narrative, and everyone has their own narrative that they adopted early on in their life. It's not real. It's just a program. And now it's up to you to step into the higher consciousness version of yourself and then rewrite the script, rewrite the narrative. And that I don't think anyone's really excluded of that.
It's as you said, well, it really is a journey. And then how do we rewrite something? We've got to know what's been written. So what is the program? So it's not about being scared of looking at the old scripts and then trying to defend our position for the stance of that we don't want it to be that script. We just recognize that there's things that have played out in our history that we want to not have play out in our future story. So what are some of those things that are going on emotionally? What are some of those emotions that come up and those feeling states that come up when we're being triggered in conversation? Is it coming from a situation of us feeling insecure, lack? Is it a fears about something? Is it our environment? So what is your process for navigating landscapes such as that?
As in when I'm in a state of reactiveness?
Yeah, in your life, when you're moving through the day-to-day life and just navigating life itself, when things shift and change. And it could be traffic, it could be situations in business, or someone not paying on time, or whatever that may be. What is your process to sift through those multiple components for you to come back to yourself into a stasis of calm, of ability to step forth into the next stages of that day without carrying a shitstorm of the morning or a previous day?
I think there's a few layers to that. I think one is the understanding that every moment is a new moment, and it's technically the only one that exists. So that if I bring anything into that new moment, that's entirely on me.
So powerful, the present moment, that really there isn't a past or a future. We're not really bringing in, it's either history that we're dragging into the now, and we're going to carry that force with us, or we're actually just having a clean slate. I love that.
Yeah, and look, that's easier said than done sometimes, especially when you don't understand that concept. You have to really rewire your brain. You really do, because like what's easier to do is to just keep bringing that into the next moment. Like for example, a big one that I used to struggle with a lot was in the morning. If it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be, I'd bring that energy into the rest of it. Oh, I didn't keep the momentum the way that I wanted, and rather than just being like, okay, look, I'm not proud of it, but let's put myself back in a high frequency state and continue now, and literally forget about it. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. And then completely immerse into the new moment. And I think the trap that a lot of people can do, which I have done myself, is think back and go, oh, well, I'm only 80% good today because 20% in the morning wasn't good. So I'm still doing the comparison rather than just being like, no, 100% now onwards. And that's all I care about. 100% now onwards. That's a massive thing. And let's say, for example, something has happened where I'm not very happy or whatever it is, I just extend the time horizon, because everything's just, we have a habit or a tendency to get so caught up in it and think that's everything. And I go, wait a second, like 5 years, 10 years from now?
Even moments, 10 seconds from now, if something else hijacks our current moment and grabs it with a much more intention than our previous story, it's going to get that attention. If I held a gun to your head right now and said, right now be happy, or else I'm going to pull the trigger. Or if your phone just went and it's a lotto and you've just won $100 million, we would be doing a very different fucking dance and
100%.
conversation right now.
No matter how like terrible the morning was.
It could have been an absolute fucking disaster.
Yeah.
The dog died, the fucking car's broken down, the girlfriend's left, and you lost all your money. Fuck, what a worst day. Ding, ding. Thank you, Jesus. Mr. Lotto's just come $100 million. Fuck the other bit of money. It's so true.
Yeah.
10 seconds, the change of state. Why don't we just create that state now? Because if that's like if we could say what is the highest vibrational state we could get ourselves? Oh, we've just won $100 million each. Right now we can do some great things on this planet. Let's go and celebrate. If that's a high frequency state, why don't we just imagine that? Why don't we just cultivate that feeling right now, hit that level in this now moment?
So true, man. That's everything. I honestly I didn't realize the significance of literally your state. You know, I used to be very results driven. Oh, if I didn't do this or this or this, then I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve to feel this way. And it was very much postponed state gratification almost. Yeah. Which is insane.
I'll be happy when.
Yeah, and
I'll be happy.
Actually insane, because all of that stuff typically is a byproduct of you being in that state and operating from that place.
Yeah.
It's a complete flip, like reverse. And I didn't realize the value of that until I started understanding these concepts more. And I was like, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. Or I thought it was wrong because I had mentors in my life that taught me otherwise. And it's funny, right? Because I look at some of those people now and I'm like, they just look unhappy. Like I can look at them and they're just like constantly in a state of stress. I'm like, why did I, just because they had money or they had that, I thought I should take on everything of them. I'm like, that's actually not how I want to live my life at all. No. So I had to unlearn all this stuff.
Yeah, you get people that just work throughout all of their life until they hit 65, when the imaginary number when people retire.
Yeah. Now I'm safe.
Oh, and then they go and do all the things that they've wanted to do all of their life.
Yeah.
Why don't you just do all the fucking things that you wanted to do all your life?
Yeah.
And you can do that. People have this illusion that we need like all of this amounts of money to actually have a really great lifestyle. People are cottoning on to the fact of you don't actually need that much money to have a really amazing life. What you've got to do is just be smart with the way you spend it.
You gotta respect it.
You've got to invest your money wise. You've got to spend it on not on the things that are valueless, what depreciate, on stupid clothes and having a wardrobe full of Gucci that is worth nothing.
I want to say something. This is pretty funny. Yesterday, Isabel and I were going through some stores, just looking at stuff, and we were in one of these designer stores, and I just saw this couple, like all like dressed up, like there was a solid effort into their outfits, and they were going in the stores, like kind of like pretending they're looking, and then like in between, the guy would sit on the thing, he'd grab like a piece, and the girl was just taking these photos, and she didn't even put it on silent. It was just so shameless. It's like ching ching, like a solid 20 times at least, which is like a pretty extended period of time. And like they took all the photos and like did all the poses, and then as soon as it was done, I remember like they kind of got up, looked around, like put the stuff back, and like, oh yeah, anyways, thank you. They weren't looking to buy anything.
They just wanted to put it onto Instagram or something like that.
Yeah. It was just a straight validation seeking thing. I just thought it was hilarious. I was like, that's funny. Like I didn't put any negativity towards it, maybe a little bit, but I'm aware of it. I just found it quite amusing.
Yeah, what do people actually value in their lives, and how do you want your lives to be? Because that's just a lot of measuring up. That's fucking exhausting. Yeah. And there'll always be somebody that's got the next best thing, a better house or a different house, or a better jacuzzi than you, or a better sauna in the house than you, or whatever that is.
But that's when you go into, if you do the internal work and you fill the imaginary holes, because there aren't any holes. Like really, right? Like you say, we just simply are, right? Like everything is already there. There's no holes in us that we have to fill. They're made up ones. Like you think there's a hole in you, then you try to fill the imaginary hole.
Exactly.
Like, how fucked up is that?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
create all of this.
We do. And the things that we're actually seeking, that we're wanting, is an externalized materialism, is it because it will give us a feeling state. We'll buy, when we get the car, we'll feel a certain way. It's not necessarily about the car or the trophy, or as you just said, taking the photographs of the jewelry or whatever that is. They want to feel something. They want to feel elevated in their position in society through Instagram. They want to elevate their position because they don't feel at that particular position. But we're only ever seeking external things for the way it will make us feel. And the interesting thing is, when we're actually wanting to acquire them, it's not that I will feel that way when I get that. It's actually, you've got to feel that way in the art of manifestation and creation. You've got to feel it so it actually shows up. Yeah. Usually the reason why it takes a lot of time on the timeline, because incrementally we're growing and evolving in our self-worth and believability. So we're incrementally moving ourselves along a timeline of believability where we actually feel that we have or can accomplish something quite great. Otherwise the gap is too far away. But the shortcut to that is actually just feeling the end result right now. Yeah. If you want to feel validated and worthy and wealthy, just feel that state now. Feel it. What does it feel like? And this stuff will show up so much faster.
Yeah. Like you said, it's just a mirror being held right back at you.
It's just a mirror. It's fascinating. But we always get that, and it's one of those things. I'll feel happy when I get the girlfriend. I'll feel happy then when I get married, or when we get our house, or I'll feel happy when I've got the kids. Then it turns into, I'll feel happy when the kids leave home. I'll feel happy when we retire and we get to travel. I'll feel always happy when... It is always a story that's future tense. Just be fucking happy right now.
Well, that's the thing. That narrative is the narrative of you actually not being happy. So you will keep finding ways to recreate it. Even if you got the thing, the narrative you put out was that I need it until, so I can. So once you do it, it won't fit the narrative anymore, and you'll find another way. Oh, well, now that I have this, I need that to feel this way. And it will be a constant rat race until you actually realize, why do you keep needing these things?
Totally. It'll be the Toyota first, and then it's the Land Rover. Then it's the Land Rover, then the BMW. And the BMW then will be the Mercedes, and the Mercedes will turn into, needs to be the
Bentley, and then the Aston Martin, and then the Lambo.
Totally. Exactly. And it will never, it's an insatiable fucking appetite that just never satisfies your soul. It's an interesting one for me. I have had the opportunity to experience lots of baubles and things, watches, cars, houses, all of those things of trappings of success that never really fueled me, that really I felt empty. The more I got, the more less I felt. One of those turning points for me was valuing the real valuable. And for me, going to bed peaceful and waking up joyful, that was my thing that I wanted to achieve, because I had all of these other things. I was busy, caught in the grind, doing the things, and I should have been happy. Had a house, had the things, had the car, had the toys, had the travel, the boats and the motorbikes and the jet skis, all the fucking things that society says that you should be happy, and I wasn't happy. When I thought, what is the one thing that's really important for me? Peace. I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to find that peace? And wouldn't it be amazing to open your eyes in the morning and feel joyful? As soon as I connected with that, I valued something really valuable. And I stopped valuing the valueless, and my life turned. And it was an interesting thing that I feel so much enjoyment in all of the experiences. I can be in the Maldives on a luxury island I was at Christmas time, with all of the who's who. It doesn't matter. Or I can be down in Burley Heads having a coffee in shorts and t-shirt and a cotton on, top.
Innately, there's actually nothing wrong with wanting the nice stuff. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing.
It's more about where's it coming from. Because if you really do that, if you really bring the awareness into why you're doing it, and you get rid of all of that stuff, and you truly feel great, and now you start picking and choosing from that place, it's entirely different of an experience. That comes from inspiration. That comes from, why not? I don't need it. It's cool though. Let me enjoy it. Like, it's a completely different place that it comes from. It's not coming from a place of like, oh, that thing makes me this. It's like, no, I already know, but it's pretty cool though. Let's just do it. Why not? Oh, we just got in a car crash and it's gone. No stress. Let's drive the Corolla. Like, there's no actual attachment to the meaningless.
So
the
true.
meaningless thing.
And look, all of these things, look where the cryptocurrency was over the last couple of years. You know, people that have invested a great deal, I did the same thing. You had these wallets that overnight disappeared. The entire company completely disappeared with billions of dollars. Things are just not as solid as one would think.
Yeah.
Your wealth can just be washed away with the next high tide. Your health can just disappear at 1 minute. You could be crossing the road, you could be, God forbid that we don't ever have that experience, but you could be run over by a bus and you could be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
We just don't know. Once again, is we were talking about this before, Will, is in regards to our relationships and partnerships, make sure you are really are careful with the people that you lay with. Who are you building your life with? Because if things did get washed away, will you still be together? Will you be supporting each other even through the difficult times? Everyone wants to fucking ride with you in the stretch limousines, but man, when you've got to catch the bus, who's there with you?
Very true. Very true. Yeah, when you start realizing what's really important.
Yeah. Not valuing the valueless. So being discerning, what is really valuable in your life? How do people show up in friendships, relationships, intimate partnerships? How do people show up? How do you show up? You know, what are those important takeaways for you? We were saying it before in regards to relationships and love and some of those little things for me. It's the small, subtle nuances of demonstrations of love that have more meaning than big, grand gestures.
One thing's the lens is the eyes.
True.
Just a reminder.
That's true. I always keep looking
I
at
know,
the little
because
picture.
it's got the visual
I keep looking at these two handsome gentlemen
with the guns.
with the guns.
No, it's. I think this is like life teaching. This is such invaluable stuff that, you know, especially on the internet, it's always, let me teach you the business tips. Let me teach you how to get to 10K a month. Let me teach you how to get the amazing body, which I do. But I understand the place it has. And I think a lot of people, they forget what place it has and they think it's everything. And it's not everything. Like, let's say from a business point of view, because health, I do believe that's so important. Like, you have it, and you don't need a six-pack. You don't need guns like mine, right? But just general health will allow you to operate from an optimal place. So that I think everyone should do. Everyone. And you create your definition of how that looks visually and what the standard is. Like, my standard is being pretty much rocking abs all the time and having good definition, but also feeling a certain way. I can look like this and feel like shit, truly. And it's happened to me. And the only time it ever happens is when I go against what put me in a high frequency state, you know? So I think having that is important, but it's very easy to lose perspective of what's truly important, especially because of the online indoctrination and the messages purely for the intention of them just wanting to take your money for business, right? And it is what it is. Like, business is an exchange, and yes, the way it works is that you give value and then you receive finance. That's capitalism, and that's great. That's how it works, right? But when it starts getting to the point where you're being fed certain narratives that may not be true, whether they know it or not, that's when it starts doing harm in the way that we think about things, and then the place that it has in our life, whether it is like, oh, I need to have that thing to feel validated. And it's not that it's bad to have a certain amount of money coming in, but again, is that what you're relying on to validate you? Like, do you understand the place that has in your life, or do you think it's going to bring you something different? So these teachings and lessons are so important because it's your foundation that you will now build from. It's the foundation of actually you living a quality life. Without the foundation, you can't enjoy any of the stuff that it gives you. And like I said, realize the place that it has. The 10K is great. That will allow you to express maybe the love that you want to give to someone by gifting them experiences, but that's not going to fill the hole in your heart. that's not going to fill the hole in someone else's heart. You have to do the groundwork and build from there. And without the groundwork, you get a shaky foundation to a building that will crumble the more that you stack on it.
It's very true. Strong foundations, right? And as you were saying, aesthetically, why do we look after our body and keep things in good shape? As you would with an investment property. If you've got a home, you want to make sure that your windowsills are painted. Why? Because the paint actually keeps the wood protected from moisture and other things, so it doesn't erode, or it doesn't rot. When things start to rot and the water starts to leak through into certain areas of the home, you get all kinds of trouble. And once again, it starts, your foundations become unsafe or unsecure. Same thing with the body. I think when we look after our body temple, everything else that you're stacking on top of it, it is more holistic. It just works. It stays in much better integrity.
Well, it helps you operate from that higher frequency.
Yeah.
Because if you are not treating your body well, you're literally having chemical reactions that's lowering your state. It's lowering your quality of thinking, your energy levels. It's very hard to put yourself in that state without it.
Yeah.
Like that's the body that we're given. So you got to respect it. It's like, as long as you are respecting your body, again, whether it's a six-pack visually, or you can be healthy and not have a six-pack. That's just preference. But as long as
you won't get laid, of course, but you'll be healthy.
You will. You will get laid. You will have everyone running to you, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh, you'll get Instagram followers.
Yeah, look, I don't get me wrong. I do get attention from it. I do, and like it gives another whole level of respect. 100%. And I guess I have relied on that a little bit in my life, in certain environments, to create impressions, to get opportunities, and it's worked. Because that is also a language of the world too. But again, it's like, at what paradigm, right? Like, that's the language of the world that meets people where they're at with their beliefs of what is valuable. And fair enough, right? Like, there is a degree of understanding this is a game, and you have to still play the game, but realize the game's not real at the same time. Like, it's just our experience of life, and you can choose to experience the life however you want. And if you want to play the game of, let's say, going into a room and getting heads turned and getting opportunities, then speak that language. But again, realize that it's just a game. It's not real. Like, remember, you told me once, from a business point of view, there was a game you were playing in that world, and you just didn't want to be part of it anymore. You're like, this is just not my game. Like, it is what it is. It's just not the game I want to play anymore. It's not fun.
Preferences.
And it's just a choice. Ultimately, it's all a choice. So,
and I think there is, and once again, we're looking at that's like an environment. Which business environment do you want to be working in? Which office environment, work, career, whatever that may be, friendship circles. What is that environment? And look at it as a closer proximity of just your bedroom. What is your bedroom like? What is your wardrobe looking like? What is your drawers of organization? I think that is a real great representation of what's going on in the mind and how we feel about ourselves at that time by what's going on in our environment. If things are messy and disorganized, things are probably quite messy and disoriented. Office desks are a great one for that. You can see when people's minds, when everything's all scattered versus organized and structured. Cupboards, when people have got their meal preps and the cupboards all have their place and all the spices in one row, or their clothing. I think being organized and clean and tidy, you can take that to an extreme where it becomes obsessive compulsive, where you're not happy. One shirt hanger or the shirt color is in with the whites, and it sends you crazy, right? Like,
There's definitely been times where, because I believe that on like an overall point of view, it is a reflection. There has been times though, I've been like absolutely died. I'm just like, no, I don't have time for that. Not worth it right now. And I'm like absolutely over here. And again, I feel like that's more of the exception. Like, a lot of people aren't there. There's a lot of that groundwork that has been done. And I also know that me not hanging up that piece of clothes and it's laying on my bed, I will get back home and do that when it's important. you know, but that's like a whole other playing field.
I think
to
it's
get
a
to
really
that
good
point.
time to do that when you're feeling cluttered in here. When you get to the point, you could be laser beaming then on. When things are feeling quite cluttery, the great thing to do is clean your external environment.
Yeah.
Clean your car, clean the things, get things
Yeah.
tidy. I just recently did it with the house, went through everything. I just got quite a great deal of satisfaction cleaning everything and putting things in order. For myself, I was like, man, I feel really good. I feel real organized. And yeah, it created a state shift in me.
That's a very good point. When you feel that clutter is when it's like really important to do it.
Yeah.
You want everything to reflect, because with the understanding that everything is a reflection, like what you put out, you tend to get back. If you can manipulate your external environment to reflect what you want to feel inwardly, it'll help. It's like when people wear good clothes or they put a nice smell on, it's because they want to feel good or they want to feel sexy. They want to feel a certain way. So they're like, let me do these things, and you do it without even realizing. But that's a great example, because there are some things that people actually don't realize is cluttering them.
Yeah.
You know, it is creating that feeling. It's like, okay, well, if you feel terrible, well, no wonder when I walk into your house that there's like 50,000 things everywhere. And it's just like that I am struggling to think straight in here. Like, I feel uneasy.
It's true. And that's the greatest one is make your bed. Make your bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Make sure it's nice and tidy and organized. And that is like the greatest number one thing you can do. Get up and do it. Take an action that organizes things. Simple things have a huge effect on our state, our mindset.
It's a stack, you know, like, for example, I can leave one piece of clothing on my bed, but it's like, that's just like one thing and everything else is dialed. I'm not going to feel that effect as much.
Yeah.
But when it's like, oh, the one thing, and then I go in and I leave 2 plates on the sink.
Yes.
And then I go out and I leave like my shit on the table and I don't bring it in. And then there's like clothes that haven't been done. I'm like, oh fuck, there's like 5 things now. Like,
And then other people in the house that are there going, fuck, Will's left some shit. I'll leave
Yeah.
my plates, and then I'll leave my
Yeah.
thing. Then the other person just, and then it just becomes a shitstorm
Yeah.
of there's a mess. Yeah, because you're just adding to the same clutter. It starts to build up and pile up.
yeah.
That's that defragging. Defragging of the brain, such a great thing to do. We do it with our computers, clear up and clear things, free up some space. Doing that, free up space. Psychological clutter is what we're talking about there. And that's why I love doing a simple task before going to bed at night. I love writing up old school pen, paper. I write lists of all the things that I need to get done tomorrow and for the week ahead. Then I'm getting it out of the brain. I don't need to think about it, but I can put it down and I set that up and I make my schedule for the week or tomorrow. It lets go of all of that brain clutter, all of that stuff that's going on in the brain. Because sometimes you might only have 10 things, but by the time it's swirling around your head, it feels like 10,000.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to sleep and all of those things. I love it. Declutter the brain. Get rid of the shoulds and change them to coulds. I could do that, but I choose not to. Get rid of it. I could do that and I choose to do it tomorrow. Put it down. Fucking great. Get rid of I should, because a should is one of those things that is disabilitating.
True. Yeah, I find Google Calendar helps with that a lot as well. But writing is always, I do writing more for like really important things. And then Google Calendar, I put it all in there. But writing is like when I really want clarity on something. I'm like, let me put this out. It does.
Engaging different parts of the brain. You've got your tactile, you've got all the different senses. I love it.
Detach from everything, and it's like, it's only that thing.
I love it.
Even thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I want to do that right now.
Yeah, I know, a journal. I just love writing shit down. And then you go back a year, 2 years, 3 years back into these journals and you realize just how far you've come. And then sometimes you realize that you've written some things down there and you go, fuck, I am not that version of a human at all when I wrote that. That is the last thing I want to do right now. But I thought that was the most important thing back then. It just goes to show how quickly we can shift and change, and that as a version of a human, we're not the same version as we were 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years ago.
Yeah, you can't predict everything. You can't. Yeah, I think if you're watching this and you feel that sensation of like it's really hard to build up some momentum, go clean your environment, get everything organized, and then start from there. Like, get the foundation dialed in. I think that's so important. And then you can start thinking about the next action steps. Like, declutter first. because it can feel overwhelming. That's when people really get in a rut. So they've got so many things stacked up and they can't even think straight. Literally, like clean your environment, allow yourself this space to now start thinking, and then go like, okay, what do I want? Like, what do I actually want? And then what does that look like? And now you can start planning steps out. So that's what I would say.
It's like what you're saying, Will, is layering. If we were to paint a kitchen, you wouldn't just jump in and start painting because there's grease and all of the other crap on the walls and the old paint. You would get in with sugar soap, you would degrease everything. You would just take that old paint back to a nice, easy sanded spot. You would fill in any of the little holes, and then you would put some primer on to make sure that everything's all smooth and that any colors from the board is not going to seep through into the other color when you're painting it white.
Yeah.
And then you would come through with that nice finishing paint. We have to do that with our life. So first of it's cleaning up.
Yeah.
Don't go rushing in and try to paint your beautiful canvas, your Da Vinci painting. Clean the fucking mess up first.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to wrap it. Start there and then implement from that point of view.
Boom.
But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Catch you in the next one in part.
Pwah.
Said it right that time.